The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation, make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels, operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Clackamas Fire District Number 1, Job Number 29957-01. Use this reference number anytime you're referring to this apparatus with Pierce or Hughes Fire Equipment. Let's get started on your apparatus, starting on the bumper with the right and left air horn. In addition, on the right-hand side, you have an electronic siren and a mechanical siren. All these are located in the bumper, and just above that, under the windshield, are the dual windshield wipers. In the center of the truck, you have the low and high beam headlight clusters, and above that, the emergency light cluster. And to the right on the outside, you have a left and right turn arrow. At the very top of the truck, you have running lights. In the center of the bumper is the bumper hose storage, and at the very top is the emergency light bar, a movable spotlight, and slightly under the spotlight is the opticom. On the front bumper on the left is an emergency light cluster and a turn signal indicator. Looking from the driver's side into the cab, you have the master battery switch, the brake treadle, and an entry grab handle, and on the steering column is the turn signal. Starting on the left-hand side of the driver is the ignition switch, start switch, and hazard flasher lights. Looking to the left-hand side, you have a right mirror control and a left mirror control toggle. Looking at the cluster from the steering wheel, on the lower left-hand side, you have the emergency light master, the headlight toggle switch, and a rocker switch which dims the lights on the panel. On the right-hand side are the air brakes, transmission indicator pad, and the tilt wheel lever. Looking at the cluster on the dash, you have the transmission temperature, oil pressure, water temperature, and DEF level indicator. In the center of the cluster, you have the tachometer, and on the right of the cluster, you have the speedometer, voltage meter, and fuel gauge. On the right-hand side of the cluster, you have the rear air brakes and the front air brakes, in addition with a high idle switch with a light indicator. Looking in the center column, you have two 12-volt power supply, an AM/FM CD player, and the Pierce command zone. On the lower left-hand side, you have the tire chain switch, the differential lock switch, and the perimeter lights. In addition with those switches, there are other blank switches which things can be added at a later date. Up above, you have the front scene light, the rear scene light, driver's side scene, and passenger side scene. Above that is the climate control area for heating and cooling, and above that are a group of rocker switches for the engine brake on-off, the engine brake setting for low, medium, and high, okay to pump while rolling, water pump, and foam system switches. Looking over the driver's head, there is the emergency master, roof light, front warning lights, and side warning lights. Just below those switches, there is the lower rear warning and the upper rear warning, in addition with a push-button cab light, either white or red, and the pump pressure indicator. Once again, above the driver's head, there is a bell, opticom switch, siren brake, air horn, in addition, over the driver's head, you have the electronic siren switch and the load master. In the rear of the cab, you have 2 forward-facing SCBA seats and 2 rear-facing seats on both left and right side. Looking at the pump panel, you have the pump intake, which is a 2.5, and then a pump intake for large diameter. In addition, you have 2 pressure gauges located at the top and bottom, and in the center you have 2 discharges, 2.5. Looking at the pump panel, at the very midsection of the pump panel, there is the discharge valves with gauges. In addition, with a deluge discharge, tank to pump, and the tank fill valves. There are 2 primer locations, the top primer and the lower primer. There's an engine throttle, a foam level indicator, and a water level indicator. In the very bottom of the pump panel, there are a variety of different drain valves, in addition with a rear inlet air bleed, front discharge, number 1 crosslay, number 2 crosslay, driver rear discharge, manifold drain, foam pump discharge drain, and slightly above that are the primer drains. On the driver's side of the truck, there is a inlet power for shore power. There is a water tank level indicator, and there are side scene lights, in addition with SCBA storage tank locations. There is fuel and DEF fill locations on that side also. To the rear of the apparatus, we have a rear scene light at the top, ladder storage in a long compartment, and long handle storage just slightly above that. There's also a 2.5-inch discharge, a large diameter intake, and the cluster which houses the brake, turn, reverse signals on the right and left side. Also on the passenger side of the vehicle, there is an emergency light cluster, passenger scene light, and also SCBA tank storage. On the passenger side of the vehicle, there's a roll-up compartment door which houses the tool storage board. Just below that is the emergency light. Moving midship, there is a large intake, a 2.5 discharge, and a large diameter discharge, in addition with a 2.5 intake. Looking at the passenger side, there is a 12-volt socket, 2 of those, and there is also electrical plug for power. And above that is the electrical siren and PA microphone. Congratulations, Clackamas Fire District 1, on job number 29957-01. Enjoy your new apparatus and take care.